How close are we to gathering as a full community at a mass or prayer service?
The prayer services and liturgies, right now we have about 550 people in those, right? And if we put everybody in together, it'll be about, over 1,100 people. So we haven't determined yet when we will do that. We're doing things in stages, and that'll be a step, but that's not a step we're going to take just yet. The plexi, we'll talk about that in a second with some of your other questions. So my quick answer is I don't have an exact answer for you, but that is a goal because, even from the start, we were talking about gathering our companions. So I'm sorry I don't have a date for you.
How will this year's Ranger Day be?
Ranger Day. So Ranger Day this year is going to happen, and it's going to be outside. Dr. Kanais, oversees student activities, so he's got all the details and all the plans and organized for this. But what it will look like is the stuff that you're used to doing inside will just be outside. We'll still have, I don't think we call it a pep rally, but, opportunity to get together and make some noise. And my understanding is that stuff will be outside, though. I believe Ursuline will be here for their Powder Puff game at some point. That'll happen on the main football field. There'll be games all over the place, like, the baseball field and lower field, Xavier Mall out there, chariot races, things like that. So it's going to look more like Ranger Day than last year's Ranger Day did. Last year, I don't think there was a homecoming dance, right? Was there even? We didn't even have
we had a game.
That's what it was, yeah.
But still.
Yeah, but we didn't even try a dance outside, right? So this year, there will be homecoming dances. They'll be outside. But we'll have those, whereas we didn't last year. Last year, the juniors and seniors did not really get a prom. They had an activity, but it wasn't like a traditional prom. I think we'll start seeing those things come back. But what's in store for us? Like, just the quickest thing that comes to mind is we're going to start seeing some of these criteria being relaxed and moving into the next phase of living through COVID and what that's about.
Do we have any idea on what the basketball capacity will look like for this season, or is that still up in the air?
That is a wonderful question. We'll use a couple of markers for that. One is we look at UIL guidance, and the UIL guidance last year, I believe, you'd have to double check, you'd have to fact check me with Coach Cook, but I think it was we had to provide the same number of tickets for the visiting side as we provided for our side. And then some of the determinations were made on percentage of capacity. So just like I said, with the Terry Center last year, we were at 1/8 capacity for a prayer service. Then we went to 1/4 capacity, and now we're at half capacity. The gym was similar last year. I think last year we started the season with just students' parents allowed to attend, or family, things like that. And then we started saying X number of students could attend. And if you remember, we made those tickets available, through in the days leading up to the game. This year, I imagine it will be similar, but the percentages will be much higher if there's a cap at all. We might just say open,
The plexiglass was a big change for Jesuit. And
Right.
How would this affect return to normalcy?
Well, let me tell you, what do you guys think of it? Are you comfortable with the plexi coming down? Were you ready for that? Yeah, and I think that's kind of an easy way to say it, is we felt like y'all were ready for it. What's going on behind the scenes that maybe the students don't see is we're having lots and lots of meetings to talk about COVID and infection rates and how many people are getting sick. And when we talk about that, we're talking about how many are sick or have gotten sick on campus. And what we saw is, since the start of the school year, you guys have done a good job of keeping COVID from spreading here on campus. Now, at the very beginning of the year, it was spreading all over the place in schools. Some schools in parts of Texas had to close, and our main concern was we did not want to close. We didn't want to disrupt your experience by going back online if we could avoid it. There were weeks where we had no cases at all, and we said, okay, it looks like this is working pretty well. Our vaccination rate is pretty high here. And you guys have done a good job with it. You're keeping it, because part of this is cleanliness. You got to. That's just even for like colds and flu and stuff like that. You know, keep your hands clean, don't touch your eyes, things like that. That's another step. Just like we stepped up the Terry Center, we stepped down the plexiglass, and then we'll start talking about masks and things like that.
Kind of further going into this upcoming homecoming,
Mm-hmm.
what are the plans looking like, and how are we looking to accommodate COVID with all of it going on?
Yeah. Well, so the other thing, remember how I said we've been watching the numbers? So if you guys have been to the football games this year, you've noticed they've been pretty crowded. I mean, we've had wonderful crowds at football games. And we've been, the belief and the understanding has been that this, when if this is passed, if this is airborne, when we're outside, it disperses very quickly. And that has proven to be the case we've experienced after football games and things like that. So we were very comfortable saying we can do this outside, and I'm not worried about you guys getting sick. We had to make some decisions some time ago. So the decision we made, let's do it outside, because we weren't ready to commit to an indoor, traditional dance. But we had the freshman mixer outside, and I thought the guys seemed to like it. It looked like it was fun. The freshmen seemed to be having a good time. We knew we could do that for homecoming and even bigger. There'll be more activity, and Ursuline is going to do something similar for the freshmen and sophomores on their campus. So I think it'll be a good. I think it'll be good. So the people who want to dance can do that. There'll be music. The people who don't want to dance, there'll be other activities. And the big difference is it'll be spread out more. It'll be outside.
How do you think masks has affected the class of 24 and 25?
Yeah, the new guys, right? The freshmen and sophomores. I'll tell you just personally, I've gotten to know some of you guys, in the building. And when I see you out in public, like at a football game or something, I don't always make the connection very quickly. And I wonder if you all have the same problem. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. My guess is if you know somebody really well, you know them without the mask or with the mask, right? But a lot of this beginning of your experience here is meeting lots of people and maybe not having these deep relationships where you know them really well. So my guess is it makes it a little slower to make some of those connections. A lot of what we do or how we communicate is through facial expressions, right? And it's got to be hard to navigate some of these new friendships and relationships if you can't see each other's faces. I also think you guys are pretty good at it. I think you guys are adjusting well. And maybe the older guys can back me up on this, but the behaviors I see in the freshmen look similar to behaviors we used to see in freshmen. Like you guys hang out on the steps together, you do things together. That's what it looked like before COVID. The difference is y'all have masks on now. So I think y'all are pretty resilient, and I think you're still behaving the way I hope freshmen behave as far as interacting with each other.
What is your favorite dad joke?
Well, before I get to that, one of the things I wanted to do, because there was a homecoming question, part of the homecoming question I wanted to, and I'll get back to your question, but it's important, I just remembered it. One of the things that's happened with homecoming over the past, it used to be, homecoming also, for a while we did it off campus at like a hotel ballroom or something like that, but we realized it's like homecoming, let's be home, right? And one of the things that when we elevated it to a high school ballroom, or not high school, to like a hotel ballroom or something like that, was people thought it had to be more elaborate and they had to outdo each other. And so we started to see guys get like limousines and stuff like that. And, that kind of happens at prom and we discourage it. We don't think you need to do that. But that started happening for homecoming. And we really thought it was getting out of hand when we understood how much people were spending on this. There's a lot of money to get a limousine. And then we started seeing those, the Humvee limousines and these huge limousines. And then we had this sad experience where there was a group of I think they were juniors, but they paid a ton of money. And some of the guys just had the money, and some of the guys had to work for the money, and some of the guys, it was a real stretch, and they shouldn't have been spending that money. And it was just like, it was this extravagance. And the reason we found out about it was because the day of homecoming, the driver got sick. And, he called him and said, sorry, I'm sick. And so all of that, they got their limo, and they had nothing to show for it. And there's your dad joke. Okay.
What has made us successful for being at full capacity for the past 2 years when other schools have not been?
Well, here's what I think. My opinion. Okay. My opinion is that I think you guys have done a good job of doing the things we asked you to do. We talk. Well, we see a lot of noses and stuff, but by and large, I think y'all are pretty good at the masking. I've been in lots of conversations with people where we argue whether or not masking works, but my experience is we were at full capacity when other schools were not. So there's some connection because some of these places that were not at full capacity had trouble getting kids to mask the way we did. Part of it also, I think you guys want to be here. I mean, that's something I believe. And so I think you guys were active in working with us and you didn't work against us. So when we asked you to kind of spread out, or when we said we're going to do these crazy quarter capacity things, we're going to have a dance outside, instead of fighting us every step of the way, you guys have gone with us, which I think has been the biggest, most important factor of that. If you guys have been fighting us, I don't think it would have worked. So that's my answer. You guys have been cooperative. None of this has been easy, but you guys made it a lot easier.
You have all the questions for today. So
Is that it?
I think so.
All right. Well, I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. What do you think of my dad joke?
I think it took a while for everyone to process it.
See? And that's the secret, is in the delivery, and you divert their attention, and then you hit them with the dad joke, right? Okay, and if you don't believe me, ask Mr. Duras.
Oh, yes.
Okay? Yeah.